to another fantastic edition of The Archive here, everybody. Again, broadcasting from here in Nashville, Tennessee. Archeons, man, we have a fantastic guest on the show with us today. Cannot wait to go into their content and their next upcoming deliciousness coming your way. We've got Yugen here, right here in the Archeons studio. Gotta do some intros here, of course. We've got Matt here on drums. We've got Mr. David here on bass, rocking it. And, of course, Mr. Jacob rocking the guitar right here in the Archeon studio. Trey, what are you most excited here about today, man?
So, honestly, you guys are, like, my favorite band around here. And, like, you know, it was crazy because we played our first show with you. Idola?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
Idol.
Capstan?
Yeah.
Capstan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so we talked about a lot on the podcast, about how Nashville is full of talented people, and you guys are just kind of the definition of that.
Oh.
And no, I'm serious. Jake, I think
Except,
that,
you know.
Yeah. No,
bass
man,
player.
goddamn.
I'm joking.
We can't play with a pick, but
No, we can't.
but no, like, I think for anybody who hasn't heard you guys, like, you are just a phenomenal guitarist. I think the definition of Nashville, like, talent, like, just, it's ridiculous. It pisses me off. No, it's awesome.
I appreciate that.
For the record, I always, like, rip jokes on myself, like, when we're practicing and shit like that. Because I play with the pick on bass. I'm a guitar player reformed into a bass player. And so I always rip on myself. I'm like, well, I'm not fucking David from Yugen. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not a real bass player. Like, no, but I admire you guys so much. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
I'm glad to be
Thanks
here.
for having
That's
us.
pretty cool. Yeah. I guess the first thing I'm going to, I mean, we kind of dabbled into your last, like, interview you had, so we know some of the deep dives of Yugen. We learned what it's about, which is just, you remember, about how
Japanese.
Yeah, BJ said he
Oh,
found
yeah.
it from Tumblr. The name of Yugen.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was that, but I'm really not sure exactly what it was.
Peace, like just like the
Yeah.
The
inner
awareness
peace,
of
yeah.
the universe, kind of.
Pretty
thing.
much.
Yeah.
I've
It
read
sparks an emotional
several.
response. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I've
Just
read
think
several
all the
different
feels.
interpretations of
Yeah.
it.
All the
All the
feels.
feels.
Yeah.
Just
That
think
is
space
Yugen.
and prog metal.
What's funny
and,
is like after I'd heard about you guys after I
That's the
joined,
visual.
like he had introduced me to you guys. I'm like, man, that band's fucking awesome. Hell yeah. My buddy from like back home started a side project called Yugen. I'm like, I like even sent him your band page. I was like, sorry, dude.
But and then so it was formed in what, late 2015?
It's the first EP roughly was stuff that I wrote when I was like 20, 21 years old, and then I had a night one day, like I had a band formed, well, not quite, but partially formed, and we didn't do anything because I couldn't get the people to actually do stuff. It sounds a lot like being in a band.
Yeah, right.
So I started, I had a buddy who opened a studio, and I kind of co-owned it with him, and BJ's been my friend for a very, very long time, and he came in, and I was just like sitting there with the stuff, and I'd tracked it and stuff, and I was like, hey, dude, you want to do vocals on this? He was like, yeah, sure, I haven't done vocals in a long time. And then it started there, and I'd say 6 months to a year later, I very reluctantly looked on Craigslist, because I'm sure you guys have been on Craigslist at some point in your
Yeah,
life.
that's how we found Tim. So.
The second person that I looked at was Matt. So I was like, oh, and he actually like named bands and stuff that I was interested in.
And
had
that
some
was a miracle
playthroughs.
I even posted on Craigslist too.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I'd
You
been
regret it?
practicing getting my chops back up for like a year after taking 3 years off of drums, basically, for college. And so I spent a year kind of getting everything ready and everything back up, and then I finally just blasted all of my material and everything across the internet, including Craigslist. I was like,
Hell yeah.
this might be bad, but who knows?
It worked out.
And yeah, like the
Do you
second
regret it?
person, no, I don't regret it.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Because
Yeah.
you originally had Norman as your drummer from iGriever.
Very briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good,
And then-
good dude. We need to get him on here.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
I
sure he'd
them
love to
too.
come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And found on Craig. So second person you messaged on Craigslist?
No. He was the first person I messaged. He was the second person on the list. The first person was very questionable. So I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Then I went to the second ad, and it was like, hey, I'm Matt. I play drums. Hang out with me. It's like, oh, okay.
That was pretty much it, yeah.
No,
Because
very simplified.
I got a handful of responses too, and your email back to me was like the most normal sounding. It wasn't in all caps. It wasn't like slang term every 2 words. It was just like, hey man, this is cool. Just normal paragraph, normal English. I was like, huh, might be a normal person. So, and I liked the music. It was cool. So I was like, this might be worth checking out. So yeah, after that we went to go meet up at like Nuke's in downtown Nashville.
That would have done it for me, like Nukes. I'm sold.
Haven't been there.
Oh, that's
So yeah,
delicious, man.
Get them
and that's
sandwiches
how I
going.
met Jake and BJ.
Yep.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
And when did you find Dave?
Well, that's another funny story. So, a band that Matt's also working with, that one of the guys messaged me on Facebook randomly, and I'd lived in Nashville for a couple of years, and I had my options open as a bass player and just looking around. And I think as some, Facebook groups like Gig Finder kind of thing, I messaged somebody about a gig that I didn't get or whatever, and then this random dude friends me on Facebook and then sends me a message like, hey, we play in this rap metal band. We're looking for a bass player, come check us out. It's like, I have nothing else going on. Why not? So Matt happened to be playing drums for him, and
Still am.
yeah, still,
Yeah.
you still are. And we connected. I guess it was the second rehearsal. We connected, or we bonded over similar music styles.
Well, yeah, because we were talking, and you were like, "Yeah, I like Animals as Leaders, Periphery, The Contortionist," and I was like, "So you guys looking for a bass player? We play progressive metal. Would you be interested?" We all like the same bands.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was a bit reluctant. I'm classically trained, and in my
jazz?
in my own words, I'm not a riffer. I never feel I don't feel like I'm qualified to do
For
that.
diving.
Anyways, I suppose that's just me being critical of myself, but whatever.
And you're originally from Iowa?
I'm from Iowa. Yeah.
So what was the move to Nashville?
What was the move to Nashville?
Why did you come here?
Music. Yeah, I wanted to
For
get
college?
involved. No, it was after college. I decided
Oh,
to
really?
move down to Nashville and pursue some music in a
That's like all of us.
music
Yeah,
central
pretty much.
area, because obviously, Nowheresville, Iowa is,
Yeah.
doesn't have very many prospects.
Story, Iowa. Story
City.
Story City.
Yeah, it's so if you know where Des
That's a
Moines is,
cool
it's
ass
about
name.
45
Cool.
minutes north of Des Moines, right in the center of Iowa.
I know Des Moines because of Devil Wears Prada.
yeah.
Nice.
Des Moines is.
Slipknot from Iowa.
Yeah, they are.
Oh,
Yeah, they
really?
are. Yeah.
Speaking of which, quick pause. Have you heard Slipknot's new
That's
2
pretty good,
singles
yeah.
that they
It's pretty
put
good.
out?
How recently?
Solid.
I actually
have a week
The
ago.
Soulway Firth, and it's great.
I've actually not been on social media very much lately, so I'd
It's
have no way of
2019,
knowing. Sometimes you just don't want to look at your Facebook page.
Dude, I've deleted my Facebook page for like months before. Like,
Do you post status before you do?
it's like, see you bitches.
I'm gonna take a break for a while.
Yeah.
3 days later, there's a video from like Unilad or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. It's
Yeah.
like, what? But you said
Yeah.
is 3 days a break?
Yeah, it's a solid tea break. Tolerance break.
Man, I had what, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, everything deleted off my phone for months before. Because I was like,
I don't have
at
the
that
power.
point in my life,
Yeah,
I
but
don't have the willpower
yeah,
either.
that's too much.
just be really depressed and drink a lot of alcohol.
Hey!
But, yeah, so going through kind of the chronological of Yugen. So then you got some photos. I saw it was shot by Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna do that? Like, do you do work with other photographers, or are you kind of stick with?
He's
like your
been the
first
main
right?
one.
Yeah.
Like he did the ones that we've used the most. We've had a few other people at shows and whatnot
Yeah.
take pictures.
Isn't it, Sam's wife
She took pictures
Is
of
she
us
the
at
one
a
that
show.
takes a lot of pictures for us? She's
Was
done it a couple of times.
No, it's been
for
at
us.
2 shows.
Yeah.
2 shows.
Yeah.
Maybe one or 2.
Yeah, we've got some show pictures.
I should know that.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like an ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I couldn't find who did your album artwork. Who did that?
I could not tell you because I don't know his name. I could find
It's
out for you.
It's a company.
They like sent it out to me. It wasn't
yeah.
Oh, Signa Collective.
Sigma.
Sigma.
Yeah.
Send like a rough sketch or
No.
you're just
No,
like,
so BJ, our previous vocalist, decided he kind of took over the artwork creative aspect of our EP and described to the guys over there, because he liked their artwork, kind of what the EP was about and all that stuff, and they gave him some mock-ups and we worked with that.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Good stuff.
Wasn't
Well,
that also
and
a
fast-
digital painting?
Yeah,
Call it? Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a digital painting.
Oh, nice.
yeah.
If I remember
The guys are
right.
good. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, and fascinating, kind of going with like all that beginning stages, kind of back to the beginning again. Your first show, Daisy Dukes.
Yeah,
How
tell us
was
about
that?
Daisy Dukes. We never got to experience it.
I got to experience it.
What?
I got to experience it.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you were there?
Huh?
You were there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Really?
Not for your show.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
even better.
Great. You didn't need to hear our first show. It was probably a mess.
I don't think it was really that bad. Like, I think we did all right for a first
No,
show.
I mean,
The only thing was whenever I forgot. The way I was running my rig was kind of complicated then. I still want to do it this way, but I just don't want to do the work involved in it. I was running 2 live cabs. I did it for a while. I think I might have done that at the show I played with you guys, where I actually had my cab and then I had another cab on the other side of the stage, and I was sending a DI, well, not a DI, a pre-recorded like wave with tones on it going into a power amp going through that cab. But at that first show, I wasn't paying attention, and I was like playing Hal, which was the first song we were playing, and I was like, why don't I hear the other guitar part? And then finally we get to a point where I stop playing and the track plays and it didn't play. I had to hit play.
Oh, man.
Everybody was like clapping like, oh, great
Yeah.
song. Still going.
that's funny.
Well, how was like Daisy Dukes? I always heard.
You know, it was a fun venue. It was quite something.
If I remember
A
very
little hole
well.
in the wall.
I don't
It was
remember
very.
too well.
I just
Yeah.
remember from my point of view, at least being the drummer, it was very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
So
always
all the, like,
loud.
Yeah.
metal sheeting on the walls, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it
it
was
was.
bounced
It
off.
was all
At
over
least
the
from
place.
back there, it was very loud for me.
Yeah.
It really didn't sound
Dude, those
that
cymbals
bad in there.
destroyed my ears.
Yeah. Well, and I have
Wasn't-
18-inch cymbals too. Most of them are. So those are big, or well, they're kind of mid-sized, but not for a very small room.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll wash everything out.
I imagine it's like similar to playing to the end if you're ever been to the end.
We saw you guys at the end.
The end actually
Yeah.
sounds really good.
Yeah.
Most shows
It's
I've
cool
gone
'cause-
to at the end are actually really good shows,
Yeah.
just because, for whatever reason, that room has great acoustics.
Yeah.
It's definitely a dive bar, but they
It
actually-
very
they,
much is.
they care about
Yeah.
the
Right.
shows there
And
a
it's cool
lot.
because like there's like 13 people in the audience. It looks like it's sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Packed.
Yeah.
Well,
One
the
of-
energy in that room.
One
is
of our
just-
more memorable shows was at the end.
Yeah.
we
I'll
lost
never
we
forget.
lost our tracks, or we didn't have them. Your computer wasn't booting up right, was it?
So it was because I'd just gotten a new interface, and it was changing in the Cubase routing on the output that it wasn't pretty much, just to simplify it, it wasn't registering that interface. But I didn't know yet because I just got it, and I didn't
Yeah.
know why it was defaulting back to it not existing. And I was like, what's happening? I'm playing a show, and Dave's going, got it? Got it fixed? Like, no, Dave, hold on a second. And I'm like panicking, and then finally I just looked at Dave and he was like, let's just play. I was like, oh.
That's something I think a lot of people don't know about is like that show stress of like setting
Oh,
everything
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Because we have
It
like
sucks.
those cabs or like the TVs in our cabs, and like so you have to run everything and like figure it out. Technology sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
It's
but
nice.
it
It
sucks.
is,
It's
yeah,
great
yeah.
when it works.
They need to make technology more do-it-itselfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More user-friendly. Yeah. We're more
Plug and
idiot
play.
friendly.
I need a
More
robot
idiot-
to
we
follow me
we
with
need
my
that
stuff.
singularity to happen so that they can just
Yeah, I can just do it
Just
for
go
us.
into machine learning, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well,
Matt,
That's what we'll do with our programming.
Matt,
stuff.
you were playing without Click that show, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you
Oh,
played
shit.
with
Without
Click, so we
everything,
played
yeah.
without anything. It was
Okay,
just
so you
it was
didn't
just
have
it was
backtracks
just
and
guitar,
shit,
bass, and him without Click. So
Yeah.
he was going by memory of tempos.
Kind of feels pretty fast.
Wait, did you play with the tracks without click?
No,
No, there were no tracks.
That was
bare bones, nothing.
Yeah.
No.
But
It was
people
fun.
loved it.
We had a really good
It was
turnout.
hilarious.
It's good to know you can still put on a
reaction was
show without like
Yeah.
backtracks too.
Oh, also to add to this, we were the oddball of the show
Oh my
by a
gosh.
landslide. Like
fun.
there was
Because their bands
we were was there even another metal band?
No,
At all?
I think the closest one was some rock band.
Yeah, like
think.
Rock and punk and
I don't know. I'm not like that was a weird show. I don't know why
Weird
we
show.
ended up actually playing that show
I think
because the lineup.
someone had reached out to us and we're like, let's play this show.
Yeah.
We don't
What
know
are,
who's
what are
on it.
promoters thinking when they do that? Like, we'll throw this pop act on, then let's put a metal band.
Yeah.
Well, I
They
mean,
probably just wanted to like bring people out.
it was like an
diversity of the
all-day
scene.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that I get it, but it was like I think the closest thing I remember was a pop punk band. To like kind of
Yeah.
it into perspective of how far off we were from everything.
Hey, but for whatever reason, people liked it.
Yeah, it was fun.
They
Had a
didn't
lot of
shy away
fun.
from the screaming, so that was good.
Sometimes stuff like that you don't plan on it actually going well. It's
Yeah.
like you feel defeated. And you're
know
like,
that.
let's start the set. It's like,
all right,
oh, this
fuck,
is
let's get
actually
this over
great.
with.
This is going well.
Totally. Then let's see, May of 2016 was your first single, Mount Hope.
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, the demo version at least.
You
yeah,
remixed
we
it for
released
the-
it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we
Was
did.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so.
We
Facebook and
remixed
YouTube.
it and then changed up the synths a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Welcome. Oh,
welcome to
sorry.
the podcast.
I've been here the whole time.
Commander Nasty has brought beers for us.
Hell yeah.
Commander Nasty.
Oh. Well, you know, interestingly enough, like when we were talking about, like, oh, we need to, like, technology just needs to be more, like, AI integrated. It kind of made me think a little bit along the lines of your EP. That whole story about, so correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a scientist and he's working for a corporation, right? And so he's working on transitioning human consciousness into AI.
Yep.
And then the wife dies. And from there, he finds out the corporation has gone all kinds of craziness into it, and so it's a really interesting story about
Yeah.
that AI. And you know, we talk about AI quite a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what's your guide like? Tell us about that. How that came to be.
I can only give you a part of that answer.
Yeah.
I probably know the most of it because originally the EP I wrote back in, well, most of the EP I wrote back in 2010 and 11, and originally Haywire wasn't called Haywire, it was also called Mechanism. But all of those songs were based off of just like machines. So I thought it'd be cool, and then unfortunately a few years later it got really cool for people to make their music about machines, which that's cool. But I did that, and then BJ came around, and I was like, yeah, so that was basically what I wrote, a 3-part song, and I was going to add a 4th one, which I did, which ended up being Mount Hope. I wrote these, and the original idea was, the lyrics to be about machines and stuff like that. So do whatever you want to do with it, man. And then he ran wild, and
Yeah.
everything else is him.
Yeah,
so.
he was kind of the brainchild of the lyrical content of the
Yeah.
EP. Yeah, speaking as as the bassist, neither of us really have much input as far as lyrics or lyrical content goes. It's mainly the vocalist, and Jake has a little bit of input, but for the
Very
most part
little.
we let our vocalist kind
That's
of
the way we do it.
run wild with the
Like I'll free
lyrical
verse and
thing.
watch the shit, and then
Yeah.
you'll be like, "This doesn't make sense. Change this."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
BJ,
usually just kind of help.
BJ
reshape.
BJ being he's very creative. He has this whole story idea in mind, and so he decided to write this story that
Concepts,
you're
yeah,
referring
that's
to.
cool,
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You
Pretty
guys
good
like
stuff.
into AI yourselves or?
I think it's cool.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I think we go off the deep end with it.
Yeah, we get a little super because that's like what our whole EP was about. It's just like artificial intelligence. And stuff.
Ours too.
We actually ripped off you guys.
That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
But
Sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you track drums at the Contemporary Music Center. Which
Yeah. My final. So I went to school up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and they have a program that they send students down to this place called the Contemporary Music Center, CMC for short. It's basically like learning the music industry in a safe environment, so. Well, it's actually a great program. Mainly, it gives students a chance to like explore what the industry would be without actually like wasting years of their life trying to get into the music industry, which is, or wasting, thousands and thousands of dollars on,
right,
recording and stuff, and then realizing I don't like recording, I don't like performing, I don't like whatever.
I don't like people.
So it's a good place to like learn and experience stuff. So anyways, they have probably millions of dollars worth of equipment, high-end microphones, they have a full studio, they have a full stage with a ridiculous lighting setup that
I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, you remember taking the tour upstairs and seeing all the lights that he has?
The upstairs is actually more impressive than the studio.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's a small, little, tiny stage with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lighting equipment crammed in there.
Nice.
Full LED wall, that sort of thing. It's like, wow.
That sounds like an awesome place to learn, though, man.
But yeah, so they have
Really
a full studio,
hands-on.
and because I'm an alumni there, we get a really good deal on it. So we kind of used it. We had the run of the place for it was about a week. So we took a week to
5 days a week.
to record drums. And
That was fun.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, how many times, Jake, did I actually end up recording drums for the EP? Was it 2 or 3?
2.
Was it 2?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, hurt leg, Matt.
I know. I
yeah.
had to record drums multiple times for the EP because of issues and problems. So, yeah, I know those songs really well now.
Practice.
Yeah.
The good news is, all the times that you did track drums, we also learned that there's a really sick Yugen cover of Down with the Sickness coming, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's really funny. He says
It's funny.
We've joked about that 100 times.
I actually do that in practice all the time.
Yeah.
I think every drummer does it.
Just do that. Jake will come in with the and I'm like, here we go.
It's like
We
the
have
best
about-
drum fill. It's like the most recognizable drum fill. It's like, oh, fuck.
yeah.
Can you feel that?
God, just do it.
Yeah.
And then, because then you just get to do it live. It'd be way more fun. It's not just practice. Then you actually have to practice it.
That's true.
Weren't we messing around with a corn cover a while back?
That'd be
Me
fun. Please
and,
do blind.
Oh.
We were gonna do right now.
Hell yeah.
But in the near future, I
never got
definitely
around to it.
foresee us doing a lot more, like actually doing them. We never did any, so
Yeah.
actually doing covers.
Wait, what was the song we did play at Autograph?
After the burial?
Oh, no,
break
we-
stuff.
Breaks.
That's an interesting
Hell yeah.
story.
That was
So
ridiculous.
at the
That was
time, I was in Abyss Walker, and it was at Edge Fest. That's what he calls it. It's Edge Fest, right?
Yeah, I think.
Jeremy Edge's
Yes,
thing that
yes,
he
yes,
did.
yes. It was the birthday
And
bash.
Abyss Walker, I was in 2 bands at the time. I was in Abyss Walker and in Yugen, and pretty much to shorten it, the show went on too long, and Abyss Walker was gonna have to play after 12, and in that area, that's like a no-go. Like the cops come and shut everything down. So Abyss Walker dropped, and there were people there to see Abyss Walker, and also, why not? Sam's there, and I played in the band. So before we went on, I was just like, hey, can you guys listen to this song, and we'll just play it and get Sam to do vocals. so we did do a cover of Break Stuff one time, because we did it in Abyss Walker.
Yeah.
So we just figured that'd be a fun.
Listen to it twice, hop on stage, play it live. That's the way you do it.
That's the way to do it.
That kind of fell apart for me.
You play bass. It's
I played bass. Nobody cares. No one heard it.
No one heard you. It's fine.
They just felt the mistake.
Fantastic segue. In the Murfreesboro, so you guys got the band of the week with the Murfreesboro local.
The music scene.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
and so they did that podcast, and you guys talked
Oh,
about how
yeah.
you wanted to collaborate with Sam, and then you actually did.
We did.
Yeah.
We
so
did.
talk about that, and with the song that was 2017
Mm-hmm.
or 2018 is when you released it.
That'd be
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, that's
Geiger
right.
counter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we kind of wrote that one organically. You know, we're still perfecting our writing process and how we kind of write together. Usually, you know, in the past, obviously Jake wrote our EP for the most part, and we kind of added our own little flair here and there.
Yep.
But for the most part, it was pretty much produced. So with Geiger Counter, we actually played around, you know, as we were working on how we write, we kind of collaborated together in rehearsals and kind of worked on this song together. And it kind of came organically.
It came pretty quick.
Yeah,
actually,
it
too.
did come pretty quick.
I think that just like with every single song that I have any part to do with, I think there were 2 or 3 different endings, and then we finally ended up shifting it though. If I
Yeah.
remember right.
It ends pretty heavy.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what's? I feel like almost every time that we've sat there, I've got a problem with that with songs. I write songs and then like I'll overthink how I want the song to end, and with that, it seems like we always end up just going with let's just make it heavy. We did that with Mad Hatter too.
Pretty easy default.
I love
Yeah.
that song, by the way, Mad Hatter. I listened to that
Yeah.
like when it came out, like probably about 10 times.
Yeah, it's a fun one. That's a fun song.
It is.
It's not as hard as the other ones.
Yeah, that's why it's fun.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What we were talking about earlier with your education with CMC.
Yeah.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, Belmont.
Mhm.
So
That's
tell us a
correct.
little bit about that.
Well, I went there for audio engineering my first semester, freshman year, and I ended up changing my major because I didn't like it. But yeah, it just wasn't for me, and I changed it to music business, and that's what I graduated with. And I also work in the business now too, so
Oh,
I
nice.
guess that's a degree well spent
Nice.
Nice.
for Belmont.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
Belmont, yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool because I mean I'm obviously like in a band and working on the business side as
Yeah.
well, so it's kind of cool to work and experience both sides of you know how everything works.
That's awesome,
So-
and that's got to add like another like layer of skill set to the band as a whole, which is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And that's like one thing that all artists should definitely try and be is a little bit more business minded because it's definitely hard for songwriters and artists to think of it as a business, especially if you're trying to make it a living, you know?
Right.
It's like, what are you trying to do? You're just doing this for fun, or you want to make
Right.
money, right? So,
Right.
you know, it's definitely hard to get someone that's really creative in that mindset.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. For sure.
So-
We talk about this a lot
Mhm.
about being how your band is like a business in a sense. It's like, and it has to be kind of run like that if you're trying to go the distance. Not, you know, if you're just trying to, you know, be a local.
And it's not
That's
really.
fine.
It's really not even about the money. Like if you just want to, like you said.
Yeah, even if you just want to
do
grow,
it,
it's
yeah.
like you have to
Right.
think of it. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, to think of your music as like a product.
Right.
Mm.
So
It is hard. You know, creative people don't necessarily think that way. You know, that's why you know the company I work at too. That's the A&R people are called the creatives, and everyone else is in their own little department. Just because a lot of times the creatives don't really know how the business works themselves,
yeah,
and it can get frustrating. They just know how to go out and sign acts and sign deals.
right.
That's their job. You know,
For
their
sure.
job isn't to know about the contracts or advances or monetary things.
Yeah.
That's everyone else's job.
And then a big thing, like for musicians, is understanding like there's a difference between just getting streams on Spotify and then developing like fans
Yeah.
and everything like that, because streams on Spotify obviously isn't going to carry you, you know, and it's like getting those people to connect with you, everything. So is there any insight you have on?
I would say don't look at 1 million streams as that big of a deal, because you're gonna get maybe. Think of it like this: for every stream, you get 0.00. Oh no, yep, is that it?
Yeah.
0.0076
Yeah.
cents per stream. So that's like $4,000 for
Yeah,
1 million streams. So
which is cool, but
Yeah.
you know, but then another thing is you can't communicate with those fans because Spotify doesn't allow you to, you know, you can't do anything.
Exactly. And that's
Playing
why
empty
like,
locals.
streaming video is really important. So like YouTube and
Yeah.
Facebook and stuff like that.
Right.
That's also another income source, and that's really important for your main thing that you're gonna want, which is engagement.
Yeah,
And that's like the biggest thing for a growing band is engagement.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
Getting people to come back.
We were talking about the Netflix documentary earlier, how to implement that into music.
Well, not so much. That's an
No.
extreme. Because
Well-
they were talking about how because Facebook collects data on everybody,
Of course.
and
Well known.
yeah, because that's why it's free. You know, because
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
sell
yeah.
you. You know, and it's just like if we boost a music video to people, it's like you can target because they like certain pages, so it allows you to do that. That's how they make their money.
Yeah,
But-
how many times have you seen things that are targeted toward you? You know,
Yeah,
a band that
yeah.
you're into. Obviously, there's something that's similar to them, some
Right.
local band that is gonna
Mhm.
pop up on your feed somewhere, just because.
Right.
Or even deeper than
Right.
that, like when have you been talking about like a fucking movie or something, then you see an ad about
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
I was gonna say that.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
weird.
Yeah.
Just talk about that too.
Yeah,
So it's like they predict your habits based off of what you like and who you
Right.
talk to.
yeah.
I remember I used to think people were crazy, and they're like, I was talking about buying something, or I was talking about that new Batman movie, and it popped up on my Facebook, and I was like, you guys are crazy. And then it happened to me like 10 times in a year, and I was like,
Yeah.
am I crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because then you start thinking about like, did I type that into a search bar?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like,
the
have
first
I-
thing I've thought.
Right,
Right.
Like, have I done something on the internet rather than just talking
Yeah.
to somebody? Like, that's
Yeah.
the first thing I try to start thinking
And
of.
that's what's funny
Right.
about it is like they're not listening to your conversations. Sometimes they pull your Facebook conversations or whatever. But
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
most part, what they're doing is predicting your habits based off of what you like.
Right.
Right.
So it's basically saying, hey, you're really fucking predictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's I mean
Right.
that's what that's what Netflix does, you know,
Yeah.
because it mines the data of what you watch
Yeah.
and curates your specific, you know,
Right.
your specific selection on top.
And
for-
it is
Right.
spot on.
it's very
Yeah.
It is. I feel like
yeah, it's full of
I
documentaries.
feel almost foolish that I was like, is this really what's happening afterwards? Because at the same time, it's like, I'll see an ad for the new Dragon Ball Z movie, and I play fighting games and watch anime and stuff. I'm like, how did it know that I wanted to see the new Dragon Ball Z movie?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
Tekken 7's coming out.
Yeah,
How did
right.
they know I'd be
I'll
interested
tell you
in
what,
that?
the world's gonna end for me when on my advertisements I get a picture of your face.
I'll be
Freak
sure to
out.
make it happen.
No, I'm-
Yeah.
Matt's
Jake.
abs, just my face. Matt?
I'm gonna call you and go, Jake.
It's just a picture of me, or a video of me going, Matt,
Jake.
Matt.
You need to make yourself a website that does that.
There you
Jake
go.
says Matt.org.
What a great website.
Yeah,
guys.
That's a good idea.
Dude,
No.
there's probably people that would, and that's what I think about with music too. Is like, you know, you guys are an awesome band, us not so much. So like, but like, there's an audience for everything out there. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So if you made that website, if you targeted the right people, I guarantee that it could get like a huge following if you could find the right people. And that's just like what, you know, Facebook actually allows us to do
I follow
in a
these
creepy
guys
way.
on YouTube. They're a skateboarding channel called Bro, and
Bro.
they have
Bro.
like a bunch of different dudes that like skate. But one of the dudes they always make fun of because he can't switch flip, so they made a site for him called ICan'tSwitchFlip.org, and it's got so much fucking traffic, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Because of their
I feel like
YouTube
now
series.
Yeah.
I'll be really shocked if I make the JakeSaysMatt.com and then I see a Facebook advertisement on my own page
You
of it.
fuck!
How did they know?
Or it's gonna pop up. It's gonna pop up after this and be like, "Do you want to buy this domain?"
Yeah.
It's still your face.
I'm looking at my own face and then Matt's disappointed face in the corner. Like, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds about right.
But anyway, wrapping back into like the music is, you know, it's just that's the cool thing about this generation in music is you can target, you know, people
Mm-hmm.
because they do opt in to sell their personal interests and stuff, so you kind of get to do that. But I also think it's important to not take it too far, like spam people with your shit, you know. So like
Right.
that's the tough balance as well,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
you know, because you could repeatedly be like, listen to my shit, you know, but
Nobody likes that Instagram that Instagram profile that spams posts about the same things over and over and over. You see it, 10 times a day. And you're just gonna unfollow that
Right.
Yeah,
profile.
exactly.
There's no reason to.
Have you heard
Actually,
my
I
band's new
think
single?
Instagram is implementing a new algorithm that sends those posts like to the bottom of your feed.
Oh, really?
Like it'll
The
read,
spam posts?
yeah, it'll read the person's profile
Yeah, they'll
and
basically
if
shadow
they're-
ban you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. basically, that's
Isn't
it.
that like an awesome just phrase too? Shadow ban.
Yeah,
Shadow
it's just
ban.
like a shit.
Yeah. Well, it's good and bad because I've actually heard about bands that have posted tour dates, and they're coming through a specific town, and then they'll get spammed with comments saying, "Hey, why didn't I know about this show until after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't I know about this show? Why didn't I know about this show?" And it's because they just never saw the post in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think there's something.
Probably
I
have
feel
to-
like it's almost problematic sometimes.
I feel like you just need to make a separate post, like instead of sharing the same one.
No,
For that.
like Intervals. I remember specifically Intervals did that. They posted several times, and
Well, it's hard to get organic traffic though. It's like, so
Yeah.
unless you pay, you kind of have to.
yeah,
Which is it's unfortunate, but not really because you get to use all these.
And unfortunately, like
Media's
all those
for
people
free.
commenting on it probably made it show up more in people's feeds, so more people were commenting on it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, after the
That's
fact,
how
they're like, "Why didn't I know about the show?" And then somebody else comments that, so then the organic traffic goes up,
Yeah.
and that's why it starts popping.
That's
up.
the
yeah.
secret, man. Like for organic traffic, if you can spark just
conversation.
comments.
Yeah, comments. Yeah.
That's why. So in like the thing that I study for like music, business kind of stuff, they say, I would never do this, but they always say do like a really, a headline that's gonna spark controversy. Like, is this the best metal band of 2019?
Just look at
people are gonna be like, because people are gonna be like, well, I'll fucking see if that's
Hell
true or
no.
not. Yeah, and so
Just-
they'll watch and
just
comment.
look at
Here come those
everything-
dads for those Boston covers, man. They're coming.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll be damned if
Yeah.
this is the best cover of Boston I've ever heard.
See, we should have for the Boston cover. We should have been like, "Is this better than Boston cover? Is this better than Boston originally?"
The new Boston.
Go ahead and change it right now.
Yeah, we'd probably get the traffic would probably spike. The comments would be
just hate.
just negative,
Just all hate.
Yeah, right.
Well, just think of what Misha does every time he posts something. Misha Mansour from
Yeah.
Periphery. He's always posting something controversial
Yeah.
or
Stupid.
stupid, and he gets
Yeah.
a huge comment chain. Let alone once he responds to somebody's comment a couple of times, and then it just
Yeah.
blows
But
up.
see, the thing
That's
is,
another
like, when,
thing. Like
and it jumps
responding
to
to
the
people's
top.
comments,
Yeah, it jumps to the
but
top.
when you're
Obviously,
at that level,
Yeah,
you're
he's
gonna
like a-
have people come defend you, so you don't seem as such like a big of an asshole.
Yeah.
If we do it ourselves and we're like, "Are we better than Boston?" Then like 98% is gonna be like, "No."
no.
Well, that's 98% of those people gave you comments, though.
Yeah, exactly.
See?
Yeah, basically around.
Still getting traffic and engagement.
Yeah,
Who cares?
and,
Honestly,
and
let's
you,
change
you
our
might
business
actually,
plan.
Just
you
be
might
a bunch
actually
of
gain,
dicks.
you might actually
That's how
gain, 10% of them or 5% of
Yeah,
them
it's
that
true.
comment on it might see it and I actually like this. Let's follow them.
Right, and then you do it.
You know, so
It's so true. It's just really hard to get past that ego of like so many people hating you, and then you're like, "Fuck." But then like you really would get like those.
Right.
I mean, some
I
of
think
the most
it's
hated
funny,
bands are some of the
actually.
most famous. So
Yeah,
look
Yeah,
at
true.
Nickelback.
true.
Kind of like looking at the whole shape of the conversation there. We're going from talking about your guys' EP, and everything that went into that, all the energy and all of the skill set that went into creating that. Talking about Brandon with CMC, or excuse me, David. I'm sorry, why did I do
You're
that?
good.
Where did
You're
I
good.
was thinking about BJ for a second.
You blow it.
I ruined
I was
it.
always
About
thinking about
BJ's for a
BJ's
second.
too.
Sorry.
And we got Matt with Belmont, and I want to throw it over to Jake. Did you go to school for music or
My man.
no? But you're
My
such
man.
a great guitar
My-
player, man. Like, tell us about how you developed your sound. Like, how you became such a god at guitar.
How are you better than everybody?
Is this guy better than God at guitar? no, I'm not.
We're using
But-
oh my
You heard
Yeah.
it.
Do I?
Great. That's great. We're using it.
Oh
But it should
no!
just be you
It's just gonna be
playing.
me that's thinking, not anybody
It
else.
should just be you playing Disturbed.
I'll make that video for you guys if
Fuck
you
you,
remind me.
David Drew.
I'm gonna play 10,000 fists in the air. No, honestly, I started playing guitar when I was 15. Is that right? About 15. And I liked metal a lot, and that's really not what I started playing.
Thrash.
Thrash, and another thing, I didn't really go so far into that, which is really weird, but I really like, still to this day, a lot of instrumental guitar players. Back then, most of what I played would be like thrash riffs and like metalcore riffs, and like listen to like Steve Vai and Vinnie Moore and people like that and learn those riffs. But I had no concept of music theory at all. So it put a pretty big damper on my playing for a very long time.
I would say you're mostly self-taught. You know,
I am.
well, you are self-taught, but
Yeah.
I mean, the way that you approach things is very, I don't know, scientific, or I don't know if scientific is the right word, but like you think about it in terms of like, how can I make this better, and so or how can I get better, and so you'll actually like look into
Learn.
techniques and ways that you
Trial
can
and error,
improve
baby.
your skill.
I try to break everything down, which I
Right.
didn't do that at that point because I had no idea what I was doing, but I try to break everything down as much to every small moving part of
Right.
stuff.
And that's
But-
that's how it works when
Yeah.
you're self-taught. You know, for someone like me, I could never do that.
So,
I had to take
going
lessons.
to your
so-
background, like, so when did you start playing bass? And
I started in high school? No, middle school, I guess. I played bass in jazz band. I played trombone for years. I actually went to school for trombone, so I have a degree in music, whatever. But I basically played a lot of jazz, bass, and I don't know, pop and all that stuff. And so I don't really have a ton of experience as far as like bass playing in a ton of different styles, but I have, you know, the music theory background
Yeah.
and the ear training background.
Man, that's
and
cool.
that
I was in
sort of
jazz
thing,
band.
so-
I didn't learn shit. It's like,
What's
hey,
an
sing
interval?
this. Cool, I can sing this.
what about you? So you said like before you.
Yeah, I
Yugen.
think I started playing drums when I was like 12, and then in 6th grade, in middle school, joined percussion in like the concert band or whatever. Did that for 7 years until I graduated high school. So that's where a lot of my like classical training and music theory
Believe it
comes
or not,
from.
It's a great background to have.
Yeah, so like I can
Yeah.
read music and I know music
Yeah.
theory and drums and like everything else. So that's kind of where that came from. And then also joined like the jazz and rock band in high school. And yeah, so that's kind of where more drum set like specific training came from an actual teacher. I never had a teacher. I'm pretty much 100% self-taught on the drum set, but I don't know, that was more of just like mentor teacher.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool because I actually got to like my junior and senior year like pick out all of our material that we
Yeah.
played because he trusted me. He was like, "Yeah, just pick out songs."
That is actually really good. Like, one thing I do want to say, like, for people that did do jazz band or anything like that in high school, it's like, it's great practice because you're doing it every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, especially for me as a vocalist, like, I could go in there and like work on like my pitch and like where I need to be as far as like blending in with the music and not like overpowering it.
Did you do jazz singing?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and that teacher, he was really the one that instilled or just forcefully made me be on time all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where really good feel for me came
Yeah.
from, was from him. Because if I was off,
Yeah.
like, he would get really mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Throw
yeah.
stuff at you.
I think, yeah,
Do
what's
that
that movie?
conductor.
Whiplash.
Whiplash.
Whiplash,
That was
yeah.
him. Not so intense, but yeah, that was
It's
him.
not
He
my
was very,
tempo.
like, be on time. So yeah,
I would get
That's where that
harped
came
on.
from.
I
I
feel
would
like
get
all the
harped
drummers
on.
got like
yeah,
the whole
man, we
fucking
get,
practice. Like, hey,
I mean, that's-
motherfucker.
we
That's
get
like-
Oh yeah.
That's your like that's the foundation. So it's
Yeah.
a
Right.
good thing
It's
to
important.
instill. Yeah.
It's important. I mean, that's where I learned to play with drums. It's like you have to be with the kick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to
for
be
sure.
feeling the kick and being with the kick in order to like,
Be
you
a
know.
bass player.
yeah, be a
There you
good
go,
bass
Tim.
player.
Makes sense.
You know, it's
and
it's
so
important.
it's so important too to teach young drummers too, because as teens, you know, as like 15, 16, when you're a drummer, all you want to do is go fast. Like
Yeah.
you see a metal
Double
drummer and you're
kick,
like,
yeah.
I have to do blast beats
That's
all the
every
time
instrument.
Yeah.
at 250 BPM
Yeah.
because it's
It's
fun,
true.
you know. and you never really learn what feel is or what a groove is and what that actually means to like a band. And
Which
how
as you
important
get
it
older,
is.
you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I
Like
should've
now,
done
I mean, my chops aren't as good as they were back then now, but I don't care because like I can be more creative within a pocket and it sounds better.
I think some of the most
It's just
no, you're good. I didn't let you finish. Some of the most important things are feel and groove.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for anything, it's not even like technique is fine. If you have tons of technique, you can do a lot. But like, if you don't have the feel, if you don't know where to sit back on the beat or where to just play it right on top of the beat, like
the 25 millisecond.
yeah,
That's it.
exactly. It's really really important, and I don't think it's taught enough.
Right, right. And I particularly really enjoy your guys' music because I know how talented you guys are as musicians and like how honed your skill set is. That you could just be doing blast beats all the time. You could just be like going crazy on the bass all the time, doing like Yngwie Malmsteen licks all over the guitar all the time. But like there are times where listening in your music where you guys do sit back a little bit and you let the music speak for itself. And I think that's one of the most intelligent and one of the things I wanted to shout out about your music so much that I appreciate, which is really
Like,
good.
it really does.
Thank
It tells
you.
a story
Thanks.
almost. Like,
Yeah.
It's really good.
I think that's the goal.
It takes
I mean-
a long time to actually start being like, maybe I shouldn't do
Yeah.
all this
No,
stuff.
it does.
Yeah.
Every,
yeah. Oh,
I feel
yes.
like that's an every musician thing
Yeah.
because you see
Overplaying is
like,
dangerous.
yeah, you'll
Yeah.
see like
Well, that's all
Yngwie
you want is, like you're
Malmsteen.
saying, like when you're younger, you just like, hey, look, I can play my instrument.
Yeah.
Let me,
Yeah.
let me fucking
Hey,
shred
look
the
at these
whole time.
tapping lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can
Yeah.
do this. Is awesome.
You hear this
No,
riff where you can't tell what's going on at
Yeah.
all, you know?
It's almost like a
Yeah.
musical maturity,
Yeah.
basically. is
Mhm.
what I
You,
call
you
it,
start
Yeah.
learning about songwriting, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a way to approach being ridiculous though, like,
Yeah.
but like you're
There's
not
a
gonna
time
get
you
it.
gotta do
it
yeah.
tastefully.
There's I even feel like sometimes you can just have bands that are absolutely insane all the time, but you have to. There's like a way of going about it.
Dragon Force.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
them or
That's my problem with Jason Richardson.
I was just gonna say that.
He's
There's
in-
some people that's their thing.
Yeah, like he's incredible. I think he's a phenomenal guitarist.
It's really
I
funny
can't-
you say this.
I can't like.
I'd want to hear your take. On that.
You
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh no, I was just
Where's
there's we talk about this a lot. The Aviator solo is probably one
Best
of-
solo ever.
is like one where I just really appreciate his guitar work because it's got like that mix of, but like his album, there's a couple good songs.
But
yeah.
my thing is, he's the
Does this sound
extreme of
familiar to
guitar
you?
player.
Right, yeah, for sure.
So you don't want to hear him doing like a slow blues thing. He's Jason Richardson.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
okay.
Yeah.
You wanna hear
he's-
just
well,
fucking,
he's
you know?
curated his art, or his persona
Have you-
as a riffer. So
Yeah.
obviously,
Have you seen
it's
him
what
do
everyone
the,
expects of
the
him.
cover with
The
Violin.
Lindsay.
Yeah.
Lindsay Sterling? Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you seen that cover that he did with her?
yeah.
I have not.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I
it's
enjoyed it.
beautiful.
Yeah, he
it's
did a
really
nice
good.
job
I
on
just
that.
enjoy stuff like it's good to have a little
He
bit of.
shreds on that too.
He does shred on it, but it's got like
It's
it's,
more
just the same with the
tasteful.
Aviator solo.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't play live when we saw them because I can't do it.
I feel like I'll almost offend you on this. Like,
Is he too extreme?
it's not that he's too extreme. It's just I feel like in a lot of his earlier stuff, it's gotten so much better as of recently. And I'm not saying he's not talented. He is a way better guitar player than me, and I will probably ever be in my entire life. But I feel like a lot of the stuff, like he would just grossly overplay
Yeah,
stuff,
that's
and
what I'm saying.
it was cool. But at the same time, it's like your bends and vibrato and this stuff's not very good. Like it's not bad. It's just really vanilla.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
on a podcast, kind of talking. I don't want to say shit about Jason Richardson, but
No.
I mean, but then you listen to like the Aviator solo, and then like you said on his EP he came out with, is it an EP or an album?
It's like an album.
Okay, his album. There's definitely more of him doing more.
Yeah.
Of that
Yeah.
was
It's
on there,
just-
and it was really nice to hear because
Yeah.
he's so good.
Yeah.
And like even his lines he'd write in those like monotonic shredding stuff, if you want to call it that, and be like, this is still really good, but I just feel like you're just constantly just mashing the
saying.
gas all the way down and not
That's what
just
I'm saying.
Mm.
I
shift,
can't
not
get
even
behind
shifting
I can't
gears
make-
for a
go ahead.
second.
He's a solo guitarist
Mhm.
in 2019.
No, I
Playing
get it.
live, I feel like he's gotta
I get it. That's his thing.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's developed his
I,
thing.
I get it.
Like,
I get that's his thing. I'm just saying musically, like it's good to hear him sit back for a second.
sure. Like,
Yeah.
here's a
Oh, yeah.
perfect example. If I could have a guest guitarist on one of my songs, and they're like, you can have Rick Graham or you can have Jason Richardson. You don't even have to dare ask me which one it is. You know which one I'm going to say. Because when I listen to Rick Graham, his phrasing, listen to Rick Graham and you'll probably completely understand.
I think it's the 7 years something.
He also did a song with Polyphia. He did a guest solo on it. He did the Envision one. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong on the title.
Last album or Renaissance?
It's the same one, I think, with Aviator on it.
Okay,
But
He's a classical guitarist.
he is, and he's a
He's
fucking
really good.
monster. Like, his chops are stupid good. They're right along the same lines, but when you listen to it, it's his phrasing and just everything's godlike. Everything's just God. It's like if Steve Vai or somebody like that, I'm not going to say him specifically, that's one of those dudes you're like, oh, your expressive playing's incredible, just reached over and grabbed all of Jason Richardson's chops and put it together. That's Rick Graham. And to me, it's like, okay, well, your phrasing's amazing, your bends, pitch, vibrato, everything. This is dumb. Which I just felt like Jason Richardson at that point in time did not really show that he could do that, because I never knew if he could at all, period. And
But he's definitely, the newer stuff is definitely going more. He's had more showcasing stuff like that, which
For sure.
I feel like I've grown, because 3 years, Chris always said I hated him. I don't hate him.
You did.
I've never hated him. By any means.
I always thought he was good, but I was always very critical because I was like, it's just shredding. But now I feel like, he would always say I'm jealous. I'm like, fuck you.
This
It's
music
nuts.
sucks.
I feel like his popularity blew up too after he released the thing with Luke Holland.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
well,
that was a
yeah,
genius,
so-
man.
Yeah,
Another
for him and Luke to
phenomenal
do that,
drummer.
it was
Yeah.
intense.
I enjoyed that.
That was,
little
because Luke,
That was
his
sweet.
YouTube,
I enjoyed it.
his YouTube series is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But you, I
Alone.
mean,
Yeah.
you're a big fan of Luke Holland, though, too.
Oh, yeah.
He's a
I
great.
found Luke when he was
His-
16, and I was like,
Really?
holy
I think
crap,
too,
this kid's
yeah.
amazing. And then I just watched him like 5 years later. He
I
was
didn't really get
touring,
into him
and
for a
I'm like,
long
what?
time.
He's so
I didn't.
groovy.
Yep.
Like, he's
See,
solid.
it's kind of
but
like a perfect way of looking at that, like comparing it to the guitar players. Even at a young age, like, he grooved well. Like,
He
you'd see
did,
a lot
but
of young drummers
It's funny,
that have chops.
even him,
but-
he would go off in his videos like crazy, like
Yeah.
over the top
Yeah.
way too much, and now he's just like all about the groove.
For
And
sure.
there's
But
not-
even
there's, like,
for his
maybe
age, though.
one or two crazy fills
Yeah.
where he's like, okay, I'm just gonna let loose, like watch this.
Which is cool. Like,
Fuck
I
knows.
respect that.
I'll let
too,
loose,
like,
yeah.
But yeah,
There's
There's
some
some-
maturity thing with a lot of
Yeah.
musicians. Like even my vocal coach, he's like, beware of musical masturbation.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
That's a
be-
perfect
be-
way of putting
be
it.
able to be like, when you need those parts, like stand out, yeah. But for like the whole, like you just need to be solid.
That's what.
Right.
what makes
That's a
it so
big
much
thing we.
better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a big thing we learned, like vocally from the
Yeah.
EP is like not to push Huff in
Yeah.
his upper register the
whole
entire time
fucking time,
because he
yeah.
can. You know.
Right.
You know, like.
it's
Like-
also almost an illusion too, because I mean, if you're laid back for most of the time, and you just break out these little, sprinkles of like, hey, look what I can do. It just makes them that much better.
Right.
It does
you know?
more, for sure.
Yep.
It speaks
Yeah.
more.
Well,
Makes it a lot more impactful.
in talking about like musical maturity, as we've covered like so much stuff like from your past and all that. So we're talking about the future of Yugen here. So we do have a new vocalist, right?
Yes.
That's
All
correct.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we tell the world a little bit about that, or?
Yeah.
Should we say who he is?
Yeah.
At this point, sure. Why not?
Announce it, Jake. Do it. Stand up.
You heard it here
stand-
first.
stand up.
Right.
The new vocalist is a really, really good friend of mine named Shane Runnels, and he's awesome.
Hell yeah.
He's going to help us kind of go in our new direction a lot easier. But
Talk about it. New direction.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're looking to expand our
current sound.
our sound just a little bit. I think we're all kind of fans of the prog thing, where it's it's got a lot of singing, got a lot of screaming, got a lot of, growls, got a lot of super clean, just about everything you can think of.
Yeah.
We wanted a vocalist that can pretty much do everything. I don't know what that is.
What's that mean?
What's that mean?
What do you think?
I don't know what that is. What do you do? Oh.
I was trying to make it low key.
Oh.
What is that?
We're all just like,
Heck in the can, Matt.
Do that. That's
Well,
There you
national.
go.
I didn't want to. Oh, I'm gonna tell you about stuff.
Hey, Mac! Throw it over here, man. Give me some chalk.
Jake says that'll work.
Matt. Sorry, Dave.
No, you're
I'm gonna make that website tonight.
Apparently, I'm not good at doing stuff low key at all. Everybody in the room stopped.
You know, you
We're
don't
all
do
just like,
anything
what
low
the
key.
fuck?
What is he doing with his hands?
People are
What do I do with my hands?
So
No, so we're looking for.
Yeah.
So we were looking for someone that has a large amount of capability, and
Yeah.
we found that guy in Shane.
Versatile.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The dude's good.
I'm stoked, man.
How did y'all
Yeah.
pick him up? You said he was a good friend.
I've known him for a very long time. I've tried to play music with him. He actually, whenever I was speaking about me having the EP ready before, was a part of that small group that I was talking about where I was trying to form a band, but I could never get anything started. I can't remember if that was on the podcast or not. So if
Yeah,
it's not, it's going to be confusing. But he was originally going to be the vocalist of the project, but after, it wasn't his fault either, by the way. It was actually the drummer's fault. So I kind of given up on that whole thing of ever happening. And then I was like, hey man, you want to do vocals on these tracks? And now it's come full circle. He's no longer in the band, and the person that I was originally going to try to work with everything actually ended up making it
Yeah.
back around the whole
Yeah,
thing.
that's crazy. That's cool.
I've never really included that. I don't even know if I've told you guys that before.
So he was originally the guy that you were hoping for.
I'm not saying that in any way against BJ. That's just
Right.
kind of the way that
Right, yeah,
everything
yeah, for
happened.
sure.
Right.
But I guess like at that point, you just kind of, whenever you've been trying to
Right,
get a
yeah.
band working for a song, it's like, well, it's not working with those dudes, and
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
forever. So
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
So what are you most excited about for 2019? Yugen's upcoming stuff.
Well, you want to tell him?
I don't know. For me, it's just getting the EP, the next EP, kind of song list solidified, and then
Oh
I
yeah,
think we're gonna definitely start rehearsing it.
we're
Dave,
writing an EP.
Can I talk or?
We're writing an EP. We haven't announced it. We're writing an EP.
bass player.
I thought that was kind of implied with us talking about new material.
I guess.
You know.
Tell him, Matt.
We do have a new EP coming out.
Nice.
Yes, so we're kind of trying to solidify the track listing. We definitely have 6, 7, 8 demos, but we're looking to put maybe
narrow it down.
5 or 6.
5 to 7, just depending on which ones in the link. And
So I've been wondering about this. I've seen a lot of bands release a lot of like 6, 7 song EPs instead of like the traditional 4 or a full length album.
well,
Is that
kinda like
like
an
the way
in-between,
new
yeah.
things are going?
well, if it's an EP, it's less than 30 minutes is
Okay.
the standard rule. I've seen, but it's funny because if you literally look up the defined, what is an EP? A a track listing of less than 30 minutes of a track. But then I've seen EPs that's like, this EP's 42 minutes long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would technically actually be
Yeah.
an LP.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
But it's nice, which I should have brought up earlier, but you mixed and produced the original EP, so you get to do that again. So then, like, having 7 songs, you're just like, we have 7 songs. It's a lot easier to do it when you're doing it yourself rather than having to pay,
Yep.
somebody to. Which your guys' quality sounds phenomenal too. I know we were talking about that a little earlier. You were like, man, but it does.
Yeah.
Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotten better over the years. Our
I'm stoked to hear.
singles have slowly gotten better and better.
Do you
as we
ever
release them.
think about like recording other artists?
I have smaller ones and whatnot, but really, I need a better studio space because I feel like I thrive more in a studio where I'm actually tracking like live drums and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I noticed that in your studio update, you looked super good.
Thanks,
All
brother.
business, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Trey. but I need to. Matt.
No.
Please start doing that to him.
Never did. I'm just gonna call him out. Trey.
Matt.
I can't even do that.
You're throwing the can, Matt. Teach him. But you've got it down
I
pat.
don't even dip either. What's up with that?
I don't know.
Already.
Talent,
Graduated.
raw talent.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were we just talking about?
Real studio.
Real studio.
In a
Oh.
studio.
I've recorded people, but it's difficult because of I'm into a lot of different things, and I really would like to start recording more bands. I'd love to mix more bands. I'll track. I mean, if people want to come in and track too, I've done that a few times, but I need to do it more. It's kind of a scheduling thing on my part, and it's my fault.
Yeah. I feel that.
Because it'll be like we'll have like downtime in Yugen, and I feel like all three of us get guilty of we're not doing much right now, so let's not play our instruments. And I'll just be at home playing Tekken. I play fighting games a lot. So
You ever play Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3?
yes,
Dude,
I've
we gotta bust out the PS. I
We
think
should
I have it on the
play,
PS3.
We should play.
look if we're playing Budokai. I feel like I'm not saying it's better. Like as far as I'm not saying it's better, but if you want to laugh more, play it on Wii. It's so
Budokai?
much funnier.
I don't think I've ever played it.
Because you have to use the Wiimotes to do the motions for the specials. So it's like kind of like you're doing the motion, like they do the motions in Dragon Ball Z, but you're like, all right, fireball. Oh, I hit him.
Yeah.
It's way funnier.
Hey, what's
But
that one I got you last year? The Dragon Ball Z.
Fighters?
Fighter Z.
Dragon Ball
we should
Fighter
play
Z.
that next.
Yeah.
I've played in a lot of tournaments, and that was super popular for a minute.
Hey, we
It
should
still
play
is
that after the
popular.
podcast.
It's
I mean,
cool.
I'm pretty bad at it.
He's good. He's good.
what
Don't
game?
let him lie.
Dragon Ball Fighters.
I need
This
to get it.
motherfucker and Mortal Kombat. Like nobody can beat him. in
Do you have
Mortal
11?
I don't have it. Well, his.
Kombat. My room, kind of roommate.
He and I
On and off
actually-
roommate.
We just played Injustice 2 yesterday. Me and him, so that was he
But you would beat me. Like, they're just bad. I'm not good.
It's funny. I feel like with anything in life, like I feel like at one point in time, like when I played certain fighting games, I was like, I'm really good at
Yeah.
this, and then like it's just because I'm beating my friends, and
Yeah,
then
right.
you actually like go online
Play
and watch
online.
these tournaments.
That's why
and
I'm
you're
with
like,
Tetris, man. I'm really good at Tetris, but not online. Like, but except Budokai 3. That was never online, so I never got to see, because I feel like I'm the baddest motherfucker at that game. So,
I feel like I was good at Xenoverse.
yeah.
Xenoverse.
Got a fucking tangent, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Yugen. Like,
fighting games are cooler than Yugen.
yeah.
So.
Well, we could kind of
Yeah.
seg it into like an entertainment section.
All right,
as
the
a
next
whole.
EP
So
after
the
this one's
podcast,
going to
we're
be
doing
about
a Twitch
fighting
stream
games.
Yeah,
featuring
it's
Yugen.
just a concept EP about fighting games.
Well, it's honestly like I name a lot of like the demo ideas like after fighting game references and video game references, whether or not you guys usually know. But I do it all the time. Like King is a Tekken reference. I
Tekken,
main
yeah.
King.
He's,
So-
he's pretty
Demo
cool.
we got.
Yeah, King's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the other song that we demoed that we're not sure if we're going to use for this called Armor is just a reference to Armor King.
It's a armor. Is
Martial
that like a
law
Tekken
is the
thing?
next
Yeah, it's
Armor
another
King.
character.
Okay.
Then the weird lore.
Nice.
Like
Martial law is my favorite character.
Law's cool.
Martial
Law and
law.
Tekken 7's godlike, and for some reason nobody, like all of the Law gods from the previous Tekkens, never played him, and now everybody's like, "Oh my God, Law's good." It's like, how
was
does nobody realize this?
Man, I
He's
was always
amazing in this
Devil
one.
Jin. I thought he was so fucking.
Oh, he's
Especially when
badass.
I was like 14 and going through my emo phase. I was like, dude, he's got a fucking wing.
Chains.
Yeah, God, he was so cool.
Anyways,
Spiky hair.
back to Yugen again.
Yeah, back to you.
Let's take it back to Tekken. I'm joking.
Back to tech. But yeah, so EP. Do you think next year? Are you thinking next year?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
We're kind of actually been. We haven't even spoke. We all need to speak about it after this about how we plan on going about releasing music. I've talked to Matt about it a bit, but
Yeah, we're in the writing process of
Yeah,
this
for
EP.
sure,
I think we have how many tracks do we have now?
technically,
We maybe have 2 full tracks.
full like
Like
Mostly
full.
done.
Yeah.
Feels like
like pretty much 3.
That's about where we're at for our
Roughly.
next EP.
Yeah.
But
It's a long
we have so
process.
many
It is,
demos.
yeah,
And lots of ideas. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be super good because there's like crazy heavy sections and sections that I can't even, or Jake can't even play yet probably, that we're gonna have to practice for.
I
And
used to
then
know the
there's,
Beatles song.
Then there's melodic sections with Shane singing, so we can showcase his
Yeah.
skills a little bit more, and like just
That's dope.
other sections that don't even sound like us in a good way. Just
Yeah.
things that
You
you
guys
haven't
are gonna
heard
be
yet.
like
We're-
Bill Maya.
We're
gonna be-
we're
I
experimenting.
love Velmai. It's one of my favorite
It's really
bands of
cool.
all time.
It's a cool sound. It's gonna
We're
be really
experimenting a little bit with what we want.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Just to
On
kind of figure out where we fit as far as writing with
A new
Shane.
Yeah,
vocalist.
and especially
Yeah.
cleans. Cleans are so much different.
Yeah.
That was like a huge thing that we
They've had to
ran
learn
into.
a lot with that, with songwriting, like
Yeah.
how like
Because
not-
usually we just filled it up with guitars. Like,
yeah,
we
not
just
putting
like-
solos in every section. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
Hey, I sing. I can do that.
How's that
Yeah.
been for you guys? Clean.
Honestly, or the clean singing. Honestly, I've been wanting it for a long time, and I've had so many demos sitting around that we were skeptical about using because they were
Well, you
written
did it
that
a
way.
couple times throughout. Like in the EP,
There's a couple.
Yeah.
Matt Hatter,
And then
BJ
Matt
had a pretty
Hatter,
cool
yeah.
harmony there.
Mm-hmm. I actually sang those harmonies.
Did you really?
that was Jakey.
I was gonna ask you that
was.
because I heard it. And I think it was the first studio update you had, and you were singing in it, and I was like, I know you were joking, but I was like, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, listen, I heard them.
I don't even remember that, to be honest
In the
with you.
studio, you just go back and watch it. You'll hear
Go
yourself.
back. I might have
No,
to-
it was the second one. It was when you were tracking bass.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to watch me tracking bass because it's hours and hours.
Do
Do it again.
right, bass
Yeah.
Do it
player.
again.
That's
Do
what,
it
like,
again.
In the
Me
studio
doing vocals,
update,
man.
you were like, do you want it to be like, or do you want it to be like,
Have you guys ever seen that video? I think it's actually, I think it's, it's Misha and Matt Halpern from Periphery where
When
they're
they were
joking
show-
about
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like whenever I watched that, I was like, this is spot on.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
real.
that's what
This is
music's
real life.
Like, yeah, for sure.
Do you want it to go pa-ka-ta-ta or do you want it to go pa-ka-ta-ta?
Exactly. Yeah, that's how describing drums is too.
Yeah.
That can get ridiculous.
It's not
Yeah.
fair with drums because you're like, mouth the riff to me, what you want me to play, Jake? And it's like, but when you do it with your mouth, the toms and snares don't sound all that much different. It's like,
That's it.
You gotta drop it down.
yeah. That part where you go,
Just, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but
Just
I was
blast
like,
it.
something like that.
That's the only thing about this.
I can't blast that fast with my mouth.
Well, you know,
Rapid blast.
there's one question I wanted to ask you.
Oh,
They're good.
Big
I just
question.
want to make sure there's a question that we didn't forget to talk about today. Your experience with, correct me if I'm wrong, you opened for Sarah
Longfield.
Sarah Longfield.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to ask about that.
Definitely want to know about that. Tell us about that.
Did you know her beforehand? Like,
No, I mean, I knew who she was.
She did a Dragon Ball Z. That was how I discovered her.
Yeah, I misinterpreted that question. Yeah, I knew who she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, it was Sarah Longfield and
Joseph
Joseph Stalin, and wasn't Jared Dines on that tour?
No.
too?
It was Ladder Math, and there was one more band. It was Sarah Longfield, Ladder Math, Joseph Stalin, and maybe it was just those three. I feel like there was one more.
There may have
There
been.
was, because I have their shirt, actually. It's, oh man, I don't want, I'm going to butcher the name. It's called, like, Saving the Archon, something the Archon. I have the shirt because,
we have them on Instagram. We follow them on Instagram.
yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, I can't remember
Save Us from
your
the
name.
Archon.
See, that's it.
Yeah.
The reason I remember that, I remember the band, I just couldn't remember the name. I bought a shirt because I'm a huge Arrested Development fan, and they had Tobias on it. And I walked by the merch booth and I saw it, and I hadn't even heard them play yet, and I was like, I want that shirt. I want it right
I
now.
love to buy it.
Tobias is my favorite part of that show. Oh, maybe Job rivaling him, but not by much.
It's hard to say.
But
that was a good show though. That was,
It was
at
fun.
It was fun.
Rocket Town, right? The White
Yeah, it
Building?
was a Rocket Town.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it pretty packed? I feel like.
it was a little bit underwhelming. I feel
Really?
like
A
it
little
wasn't.
bit,
It wasn't
By the
like
time we were
horrible.
towards the end of our set, I think there was people starting to trickle in. But
Yeah.
It was definitely not one of our worst shows as far as attendance
No.
goes, but it was not bad.
It's all right.
We've
But
been pretty fortunate.
I mean,
with our shows,
the
though.
white building is pretty deep. so you can actually really pack out that
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
So when there's 50 people there, it doesn't really look
doesn't-
Yeah,
that
it doesn't look
packed.
bad, yeah.
Right.
You know, I don't really know how many people were there, but it was a decent turnout.
I would say
a
around-
little. I would say it's a little underwhelming for the people. I guess Drusif is really just kind of a internet sensation, and Sarah is
That's how
kind
she
of an
is, too,
internet
yeah.
sensation
Like I
as
said,
well.
I
So it's
saw
kind of like
she did a Dragon Ball Z.
not as
cover
big
thing,
as
and
it's just-
say a big.
Well, I mean,
big
it was
name
just like
prog
she
band.
wrote something and
Right.
it used Vegeta going, it's over
okay.
9,000. What 9,000?
What? 9,000?
Yeah. There's just a lot of tapping.
Dude, I work out to the Dragon Ball Z soundtrack
Dude,
every day.
the Bruce Falcon one?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
And I
dude.
can't believe
I'm the
people
same. I got
argue-
it on my Spotify.
How can
for
you
that.
argue that you like the original dub more than the subs? Like, I'm looking at you.
Oh, I love
Oh, he likes
dub.
the dubs more than the subs?
I like the subs.
Oh.
I like the subs too.
Dude, the only art, like,
I can't stand the Japanese music or the new
Yeah.
like Dragon Ball Z Kai music too.
Or when they replaced.
Bro, what about that super music though? Like the
Trash.
Fuck,
dude 10mm window.
it's
Trash.
good. It's a good rap. Like, what?
I just
My
hate Dragon Ball
only
Z.
complaint about, like, with the... Don't get me wrong, I like both. I really do, because I grew up watching the dubbed version. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I'd watch Dragon Ball Z sometimes dubbed, and I'm like, the voice acting is really questionable in some of
It's
these
like,
sections.
it's just.
It's the cheesiness that goes with it, but when you watch the Japanese
I
version,
like Sean Schimmel.
they
I love
are
Sean
so
Connery,
much
Christopher
more
Savage.
passionate about doing their dubs.
Yes,
The only thing that I just kind of like, the guy's good, but the Vegeta voice actor sometimes when, like, let's
the
say
sub.
like he's hitting somebody, the original Japanese voice actor will be going like, I'm like, we could reel that in a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, that's
The way he does it, just the tone of his voice, I'm like,
Yeah. And I actually hold off on watching Super until the dub's released.
I
because
watched it
it's just-
subbed.
Yeah, he did too, but I can't do it because, like,
Couldn't
it's just like the nostalgia.
That's what I was gonna say
you know,
verbatim.
Yeah, like
I
it's
get
just
it.
there's just something about it, and it's like I have to. Just a lot of Sean Schimmel. I love him. I always thought it was so metal. I always wanted to do like a breakdown when he's like going Super Saiyan 3 and then like his voice cracks like when he like at the very end. It's like you know, just put a low underneath it.
It's
the best.
I feel like the dubbed version is a lot more fun to watch. I feel like the subbed version is a little bit more like, you could tell like these
I
people
watch
like
sub
they
versions
care.
of everything,
I do
man.
too, man. The only thing recently,
Elitists.
I watch anime too. I'm assuming you do as well. The only thing that I've watched dubbed, and it's because I watched it with my friend, and she wanted to watch it dubbed, was Seven Deadly Sins. But it was actually great
Yeah,
dubbed.
no, they have a good dub.
So I haven't even watched it subbed yet. So I will eventually. I haven't even seen the new stuff, which is
The second
shameful.
season.
Yeah. I've seen like the
I
first
love the
4
first season was
episodes.
great because I thought it brought back to like Dragon Ball when like the
The
World
action's so
Tournament
good.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I thought that was so cool.
The
love that.
action scenes are so
Yeah.
good in that show,
Yeah.
man.
Dude, some of the stuff I can't even tell you. In the fucking Tournament of Power or whatever.
Yeah, I don't.
You still haven't seen
I
it?
haven't seen. I'm waiting until it's finished before I watch
Oh, I
it.
gotta go.
Oh my! I want
I
to talk
got-
to you
I
about
got
this so
to
bad,
it.
but I don't want to spoil it for him.
Yeah, no, I got to it, but then like I'm waiting for the dub to catch up past it to where I can watch it all
Just-
because I can binge
When he
watch
fights Khalifa.
I was about to say that, dude.
Oh.
To the face, like
Oh.
dome shot, like domed, man. That was the most epic.
It's so good. Like I jumped out. Like it made me feel those feels when I was a kid.
Everyone.
Like watching Dragon Ball Z. Like I jumped out my seat. I was like, ooh.
it.
Hit him!
Is it
Hit him
dead?
again!
Yeah.
The phone's still going.
Is the camera actually dead?
The camera is, but we got these
We got
two.
the
Go,
phones.
we got these two rocking.
Yeah.
All right. Well, while we have to shortly kind of bring things to a close here, as we're getting towards the end with our main camera dying out here, shout out to the phones. What's up, guys? I did want to briefly address that Halcyon and I believe Geiger Counter was featured on the podcast
Oh, the
X
dad.
Dad Core X.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That podcast is cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
that's
guys
cool.
are cool.
Yeah. Well, that's really
Yeah, you've been featured a couple times on there, so that's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They seem to like it, so
Yeah,
we definitely appreciate it.
randomly got in contact.
Did they
with
take
us,
a
like,
hiatus
hey,
for
we'd
a
love
while? Are they
yeah,
still
I have
doing that?
no idea.
I remember reading something like that, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they took a hiatus. I don't know if they're still on hiatus or if they're still.
I need
doing
to
stuff
double check.
again,
I've
but-
seen them posting like memes and stuff more than anything.
Yeah,
now.
they messaged us about wanting to feature Alcyon on their podcast, which is pretty cool. And
Yeah.
Oh, and then really quick, sponsorship.
Oh yes, with your pickups, right?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
The way that happened was really interesting. I'd heard about those pickups, and with me, like, I have to hear things before I buy them,
Right.
and there weren't really any, like, at the time, there weren't, I guess, more traditional demos of the pickups. And I really wanted to check them out, and I'd considered messaging the owner, who at the time was Nick G, who's a fantastic friend of mine nowadays. But he came to one of our shows randomly, and he talked to me, and I'm not a big EMG person at all. I don't think they're terrible. They're just not for me. And I was playing an 8-string, and he does not like EMGs at all. And my 8-string had EMGXs in it,
Shout out,
and
EMG.
and I was like, which he doesn't think they're a bad product. Just
Right.
like me, it's just not for me. And he was like, after the show, he was like, man, I really like your band. I was like, thanks, man. And he looked familiar. I was like, wait, you're that guy. And then by that time, he like pulled out a card, and he was like, how do you like the EMGs in that? I was like, that's what came in the guitar.
Yeah.
They're good for, that's not my thing. And then eventually, like, he asked me to have lunch with him one day, and he was like, will you do demos of my pickups and all that
Well,
stuff?
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like,
that's
yes,
awesome,
that's
man.
that's
Yeah.
the best way ever imaginable. I can
Yeah.
actually get to know your product. And honestly, I'm not just saying it because, I'm endorsed through that company, but I was going through the catalog, and some of them weren't for me, but that's just like any catalog of
Right.
pickups. But some of them I was like, oh, this is just right. And afterwards, I did the demos and stuff for him, and he was like, would you be interested in being endorsed? I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll get back.
Yeah. No.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just, will you throw some of these those things in here for me? It's like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, yeah, give me the.
So you're good at like soldering and everything and wiring.
Yep.
That's so
That's
hard.
awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fuck
I don't
yeah.
like doing it. I did it in my Aristides I just got, but he was
Oh,
nice enough to do
guitars.
it for me in my RG and in my JP7 before I got rid of it and sold it or traded it in cash for that Aristides.
Those are good guitars, man.
Dude, I love it. So a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people just don't want to like those things, but they, once you put the right pickup set in there, which
Yeah.
Nick got me a set put in it, and they sound so good, and the neck profile fits my hand like a glove. I love those
I feel like
things.
those guys and Kiesel are like the next biggest guitar companies.
Kiesel's huge. This
I
guy,
have a Kiesel bass.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
excellent. It sounds amazing. It tracks nicely too.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
got a great dry tone.
I have Minel cymbals.
Brian used to work
you're the
with
bass
Vinyl.
player
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I'm unofficially sponsored by Minel. That's all I play. So
Shout out, Minel.
Nice.
shout out, you know.
Do you really only have
Brian
Minel
used to
symbols?
still.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Wait, don't you have? I'm gonna hate to call you out. Don't you have some Zildjian crashes? Not anymore.
Man, that's impressive. Because usually,
All
like, kids
Minel.
are just composed.
Yeah, like, all
especially when
kinds
you're
of-
Sabian,
Yeah, yeah.
Zildjian,
Yeah.
Minel.
I look official, okay?
Yeah,
When I'm
that's
up there.
right.
Aside
Well-
from cracked cymbals.
Yeah, except for I use that as a stack.
It happens.
Well, if they would just sponsor me, they wouldn't be
Yeah.
bad.
Simple solution. Just
Yeah, right.
send me a symbol.
Well, gentlemen, as the podcast is kind of shortly running out of time here, speaking about shout outs here, any projects or anything you'd like to shout out right now to the fans that you're speaking to right now?
Mm,
Artists,
I don't know.
anything like
Stay
that?
tuned because
Hard
Stay
Reset.
tuned.
I was briefly in that band as well.
Yeah.
Check them
Oh
out.
yeah.
They're
Abyss
awesome.
Walker.
Love those guys. Abyss Walker, of
Yeah.
course.
Mhm.
Love
And then
those dudes
you're-
too.
Static Heads.
Static
Shout out.
Heads.
That's my other band. We're coming out with the album probably late this year,
Nice.
maybe early next year.
I'll have to check it
Links in description.
All the links down in the description
Go
below.
go ahead and click the subscribe button right here.
Oh, I agree with her.
On my
I agree.
face.
I think we're gonna get. I've been bugging the shit out of Norman. I was like, I just want Yugen and I agree. I want to nerd out with him about Final Fantasy. That's,
Oh, I love Final Fantasy too, man. I might have to just drop
you
by.
should just come. Yeah, dude, you really should, because like I guarantee that's. I'm
Go
just
play
gonna
Kingdom
talk.
Hearts with him. Like,
Yeah. Or
I haven't
just-
played 3 yet.
Oh really?
Mm-mm. I haven't played 15 yet either. You might want to crucify me, but
It's. I mean, it's okay.
Tune in next week when we go to our Twitch stream to go with Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Guys, thanks
With
again
Yugen.
for joining us here on the podcast. We've got
Yeah, thank you
Yugen
guys.
right here in Nashville, Tennessee. The Archeons band signing out with the Archive. Another fantastic episode. We'll see you next time with a great artist spotlight just like Yugen. Cheers. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Woo! You guys.